Good evening and welcome to the Newshour at 9. I'm Madhavdas GK. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a super exclusive here on Times Now tonight. This expose demolishes lies and fakery that the publication Wire has been spinning ever since they were called out for their false reporting on Meta. The man who's been made the scapegoat and blamed for misleading the publication, even called a highly mentally disturbed individual by the publication, has spoken out for the first time. Devesh Kumar broke his silence today on Times Now, and his testimony nails the Wire's top bosses. Listen into Devesh Kumar for the first time ever on television.
अभी जो चीजें चल रही हैं सारी, इस बारे में आपका क्या कहना है?
इस बारे में मेरा स्टैंड वही है जो वायर का स्टैंड है कि जो रिपोर्टिंग इंस्टाग्राम और मेटा के आधार पे हमने की थी, उस रिपोर्टिंग में हमसे गलती हुई है। बहुत सारे डॉक्यूमेंट जो हमारे पास आए हैं अलग अलग जगह से, वो डॉक्यूमेंट सही नहीं है और जिस कारण से वायर ने जो स्टोरी नीचे ले गई है उस वही तक मेरा स्टैंड है। उसके बाद ना मेरे पास कोई नोटिस आया है, ना कोई डॉक्यूमेंट आया है जिसके आधार पे हम कुछ कह सकें। अभी 2 दिन पहले क्राइम ब्रांच वाले आए थे और जिस तरह से वायर के और एम्प्लॉयज़ और अकाउंट ऑफिस और प्रोडक्ट मैनेजर जैसे मिथुन है मुंबई में, उन सब का कंप्यूटर सीज हुआ है। जो लोग एफआईआर में शामिल हैं भी या नहीं भी है इन्वेस्टिगेशन के पर्पस से, उसी तरह से मेरा कंप्यूटर, 2 कंप्यूटर और 1 फ़ोन, दोनों भी सीज किया है उन्होंने और वो पूछताछ करने के लिए आए थे। अभी मुझे उन्होंने दिल्ली बुलाया है और पूछताछ करने के लिए। केस के सिलसिले में मुझे कोई नोटिस नहीं है, मैं किसी एफआईआर में शामिल नहीं हूँ। इस तरह का कोई नोटिस ना मुझे आया है ना मुझे उसके बारे में कोई जानकारी है।
एक बात आ रही है कि जो वायर ने जो कंप्लेंट फाइल की थी आपके अगेंस्ट पुलिस के साथ, उसने कहा है कि आप मेंटली अनसाउंड हैं, मेंटली अनस्टेबल हैं।
नहीं, मेंटली अनसाउंड अनस्टेबल ऐसा कुछ नहीं है, क्योंकि पहली बार ऐसा कुछ हुआ है मेरी ज़िंदगी में और जो है परेशानी वाले दौर से हम लोग सब गुजर रहे हैं, वायर के लोग भी गुजर रहे हैं, मैं भी गुजर रहा हूँ। तो थोड़ा नर्वस थे, थोड़ा जो है टेंशन में थे, पर उससे वो मुझे लगता है कि जो लैंग्वेज यूज़ किया गया है वो सही नहीं है।
अच्छा, ये बताइए कि कुछ हुआ कैसे, मतलब हाउ इट ऑल पैन्ड आउट?
ये जो है अभी इन्वेस्टिगेशन प्रोसेस के अंदर की चीज़ है। ये जो है मैं रिवील नहीं करना चाहूँगा बिना पुलिस को या फिर इन्वेस्टिगेटिंग ऑफिसर को बताए हुए। मीडिया के सामने मेरा स्टेटमेंट वही है, जो घटना का स्टेटमेंट, कहने का मतलब कि क्या हुआ कैसे हुआ, जो वायर का स्टेटमेंट है।
So don't you think that this is something an overreaching endeavor on part of police as far as the story going wrong is concerned?
पता नहीं मुझे उसके बारे में, मुझे इतना लॉ और इन सब चीज़ों के बारे में पता नहीं है। मैंने जिस तरह से वायर ने स्टेटमेंट रिलीज़ किया है, मैंने पुलिस के साथ पूरा कोऑपरेट किया। उन्होंने मेरा 2 कंप्यूटर और 1 फ़ोन जो सीज़ किया, मैंने पूरा कोऑपरेट किया। मुझे जानकारी जैसे हुई कि एक हैश वैल्यू जनरेट करके देना चाहिए आईटी एक्ट के अंदर, ताकि बाद में टेम्परिंग ना हो, वो पुलिस ने, मैंने ऑन द रिकॉर्ड उनसे बोला कल, पर उन्होंने मुझे कोई हैश दिया नहीं है जिससे मैं ये वेरीफाई कर सकूं कि मेरा डिवाइस जो है टेम्पर नहीं हुआ है। तो और बाकी उन्होंने मुझे एक कॉपी दी है जिसमें लिखा हुआ है कि ये कंप्यूटर और ये फ़ोन और कुछ ईमेल आईडी जो मैं यूज़ कर रहा था, जिससे मुझे इन्फॉर्मेशन आया है या जिससे इन्वेस्टिगेशन के दौरान मैं यूज़ कर रहा था, वो जो है।
What is the legal recourse you are supposed to take?
कोई लीगल रिकोर्स अभी मैं फॉलो नहीं कर रहा हूँ। अभी जो है जैसे मैंने कहा, मेरे पास कोई नोटिस नहीं आया है, मुझे कोई जानकारी नहीं है कि मेरे ऊपर कोई एफआईआर हुआ है। वायर ने एक रिपोर्ट छापी, उसमें बहुत सारे लोग इन्वॉल्व थे, मेरा नाम भी नहीं है रिपोर्ट में। शुरू के 2 रिपोर्ट में मेरा नाम नहीं है, जानवी और सिद्धार्थ का नाम है। और जो है कहने का मतलब ये कि जैसे मैंने बताया कि मिथुन भी हुआ है और एडिटर्स पे भी हुए हैं, ऑफिस में अकाउंटेंट्स पे भी हुए हैं, उसी तरह से मेरे पे भी कंप्यूटर सीज किया गया है। मुझे कोई लीगल रिकोर्स लेने की अभी ज़रूरत नहीं है और ना ही मैं अभी उसके बारे में सोच रहा हूँ, क्योंकि अभी जो है मुझे कोई भी जानकारी नहीं मिली कि मेरे ऊपर क्या आरोप है, या मुझे सिर्फ इन्वेस्टिगेशन का प्रोसेस का पार्ट इसलिए बनाया है दिल्ली पुलिस ने ताकि जो जानकारी जो है अलग अलग जगह से सही ढंग से आ सके।
अच्छा, ये बताएं कि लेट अस टॉक अबाउट समथिंग, योर पर्सनल बायोडाटा एंड योर थिंग्स। आपकी स्कूलिंग और आपकी कॉलेज कहाँ से हुई?
ये जानकारी इस समय मैं देना नहीं चाहता। मेरे रिपोर्टिंग में क्या होता है कि रिपोर्टर डरता है और रिपोर्टर को लगता है, डरने की बात नहीं है, रिपोर्टर को ऐसा लगता है कि वो खुद स्टोरी ना बन जाए। मैं खुद स्टोरी नहीं हूँ यहाँ पे, जो स्टोरी है वो फेसबुक और मेटा के अगेंस्ट स्टोरी है। उस स्टोरी के बारे में वायर ने भी, और क्योंकि मैं वायर के साथ जो है उस वायर के साथ पहले जुड़ा रहा हूँ, जुलाई 2022 तक मैं जुड़ा रहा हूँ, उनके साथ काम किया है। अब तो मैं उनके साथ जो है कभी कभी कोई चीज़, छोटी मोटी चीज़ बोल देते हैं तो कर देता हूँ, पर ऐसा कोई मैं जुड़ा हुआ नहीं है। तो जो वायर का स्टैंड है वही मेरा एक थर्ड पर्सन की तरह वही मेरा स्टैंड है कि स्टोरी में गलतियाँ हुई हैं। स्टोरी में जो चीज़ जिसके बारे में वायर ने माफ़ी मांगी है, उस चीज़ के बारे में मुझे भी पता है। मुझे भी उतनी ही जानकारी है जितनी आपकी है, आप लोगों की जानकारी। अंदर के एडिटोरियल डिसीजंस और अंदर का जो इंटरनल इन्वेस्टिगेशन उनको किया है, मैं उसका हिस्सा नहीं है। मुझे जो भी डॉक्यूमेंट आया था, मुझे जो भी इन्फॉर्मेशन आया था, मैंने उनसे शेयर कर दिया है। और पुलिस, जैसे मैंने कहा, दिल्ली पुलिस के पास दो कंप्यूटर और एक फ़ोन उन्होंने रख लिया है, सीज कर लिया है। और उसके बारे में जो है मैंने पूरी तरह से कोऑपरेट किया है।
Well, the fact is that this testimony completely smashes the narrative that The Wire has been creating by blaming this one individual for the Meta hoax. Devesh Kumar clearly tells Time Star that it was not one person's job and instead the top editors of The Wire, Siddharth Varadarajan, Janvi Sen, took bylines for the first two Meta stories. This means that both Siddharth and Janvi had complete knowledge of what was happening and that the stories were published with their knowledge, which they can't deny now. Now, the editors might have wanted to shift the entire blame on this individual and even gone to the extent of calling him mentally unsound. But the man says he's not highly mentally disturbed and there's nothing wrong with him. These allegations are baseless. He's himself shocked that such language has been used for him from his former bosses and that they could stoop down to such a level, calling him deranged. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what we're telling you is all on record. There's no falsifying anything here, unlike what has been done by The Wire. Listen to Devesh on the charge that has been made against him.
अच्छा, एक बात आ रही है कि जो वायर ने जो कंप्लेंट फाइल की थी आपके अगेंस्ट पुलिस के साथ, उसने कहा है कि आप मेंटली अनसाउंड हैं, मेंटली अनस्टेबल हैं।
नहीं, मेंटली अनसाउंड अनस्टेबल ऐसा कुछ नहीं है, क्योंकि पहली बार ऐसा कुछ हुआ है मेरी ज़िंदगी में। और जो है परेशानी वाले दौर से हम लोग सब गुजर रहे हैं, वायर के लोग भी गुजर रहे हैं, मैं भी गुजर रहा हूँ। तो थोड़ा नर्वस थे, थोड़ा जो है टेंशन में थे, पर उससे वो लगता है कि जो लैंग्वेज यूज़ किया गया है वो सही नहीं है।
Let's quickly go across to my colleague Siddharth Talia on the Wire's charges and the counter presented by Devesh. Siddharth, quickly explain to us and put it in context as to why what Devesh has said is so important. Explain it to our viewers.
Absolutely. So there have been a series of claims as well as counterclaims, and this is the latest in that set. Wire has actually alleged, and this is part of the statement that the Wire, the complaint that the Wire has filed with the Delhi police, where they actually claim that Devesh Kumar seemed highly disturbed mentally when he confessed to fabricating all the documents that were used by the Wire to publish their stories against Meta. Now, what is Devesh's counter to this? He completely debunks this claim and said that this is a mischaracterization. Devesh actually tells us this is absolutely wrong to say that I'm unsound. So that's the first contradiction that Devesh is pointing out. Next, the Wire claims that Kumar has confessed to fabricating all the material in this matter. So Devesh fabricated all the material. That's the Wire's complaint to the Delhi police, to which Devesh says the first two stories do not even reveal my byline. So they do not carry his byline. The first two stories were published on the 10th and 11th of October. It's only the story that's published subsequently on the 15th that carries Devesh's byline. Next, the Wire's charge: Devesh fabricated and supplied emails as well as videos, to which Devesh tells us many documents we received were false. So he is emphasizing collective responsibility on the part of the Wire here, and in fact speaking out against the Wire attempting to single him out and put all the responsibility on him. Next, the Wire claimed that Devesh Kumar wanted to damage Wire as well as its reputation. They attributed a malintent on his part, to which Devesh says our story on Meta had several mistakes, once again emphasizing that this was a collective responsibility. So back to you. These are the claims as well as the counterclaims put forward by Devesh Kumar.
Thank you for that, Siddharth, because Times also tried to contact Siddharth Varadarajan, the founder of Wire. He has his hands full and could not speak to Time Star. But that takes me across to the legitimate question that we're asking this evening, and that is whether the ecosystem will continue to give a clean sheet to the Wire's wrongdoing.
You're You're watching the News Hour at 9. Debate number 1 on Times Now. Super Prime Time.
All right, with us on the panel for more on the story is Guru Prakash of the BJP. We have with us Ratan Sharda, author. Smita Prakash is editor of ANI. Kamruzaman Chaudhary is from the Congress Party. Tehseen Poonawala, political analyst, is with us. Ghanshyam Tiwari is from the Samajwadi Party. He's a spokesperson. But I first and foremost want to go across to Vivek Srivastava, political analyst. Vivek Srivastava, for the first time on television, Devesh Kumar has broken his silence. And he has very directly contradicted many of the statements that have come out from the Wire magazine. And what we have seen the Wire come out and say time and again, defending their stories, saying that he is mentally unsound. Here's a person who's perfectly lucid. And he's shocked that his former bosses are now turning against him and have filed, in fact, cases against him. Is it because cases was filed against them and not against Devesh that they've decided to turn the tables on him and make him the scapegoat?
You see, there are two facets of the debate that we are having today. Number one, the role of the government and the over-enthusiastic police in the case of the Wire, and number two, the role of Devesh in the whole conspiracy. I will not call it the mistake of the Wire. I'll call it a conspiracy against the Wire, because that is what has actually happened. They were depending on a person who was inside. They have duly apologized. They said it was a mistake, but it was also a conspiracy from their own people. So, I mean, now if the government of India, through the police,
but explain to me, sir,
those news channels, those social media platforms.
If Devesh was indeed the source, why was his byline not there on two stories?
Okay.
Can you explain that, Vivek Srivastava? Because you see, at the face of it, these are very, very serious charges. I mean, you may want to believe whatever you want to believe. I can't change that. But the question is, even if you believe that this was a conspiracy against the Wire, the question still remains: why were they in such a hurry to claim credit? Did they then steal Devesh's information or his story from him?
I'll tell you what now. Now, Madhav, even Times Now is a very big group. You are a very old group, the Times of India. And somewhere or the other, it is not possible for the top management of even your company to be going and trying to verify every story of every reporter who's present on the ground. Somewhere or the other, a trust factor has to be maintained. And in this particular case, Mr. Devesh broke the trust. He knew that the documents that were coming were fraud. They were not in place. He did not double check
But then when those stories were flagged initially, why did they defend them? Why did they get down? No, the difference, Vivek, let me explain to you. I'm very glad you raised this point, because there is a difference between what media organizations do on a day-to-day basis. When there is even one mistake flagged, if there is a mistake flagged, then we certainly go into it point by point and examine where the mistake is. There are apologies that are issued at the very first instance. Instead, what happened is that defense and after defense, document after document defending the original wrong was put out by the Wire magazine. The stories were defended, and that is something that is extremely unusual. It shows that not just did they get misled, but they also did not even consult any kind of experts, which they have themselves admitted in their own statement. And not once, not twice, but multiple times.
It took them time. Agreed, Madhav. It took them a lot of time to verify the authenticity of the documents, and by that time they were not very sure, and that is why this mistake escalated. However, I do not think that the media house should be victimized for mistakes like this. They have apologized, they have acknowledged it out, and just because you are against the government, it's very much like how Mr. Adani is trying to take over NDTV in a very hostile way. So every media house, every social media platform that is critical of the government, journalists like Punya Prasoon Vajpayee, Abhisar Sharma, Milind Khandekar, the list is endless. I think this present government is using the police in a very wrong way, and it is over-enthusiastic.
Vivek Srivastava, I don't think all of those or any one particular complaint or this issue of Wire can be compared to any other episode that has happened in the past because of the sheer nature of the charges over here. But let me bring in, before I bring in Guru Prakash of the BJP, let me bring in Smita Prakash, because Smita Prakash, Vivek Srivastava raises so many issues on journalistic ethics and rigor, and saying that this could happen to any media organization, that police is victimizing these particular journalists. How do you respond to what Vivek Srivastava says? Because this is time and again the statement that is coming in from various media organizations, Editors Guild, the Press Club as well. How do you respond to it, Smita Prakash?
Look, Madhav, when armchair experts or politicians, when they start defending a particular journalist or a particular organization, that's fine. It's either done because of ignorance or because of a political motive. That I can accept. But what I find strange is a bunch of journalists who sit on these exalted platforms who defend this kind of thing, that they are the journalists concerned who are being accused are people of repute. They have a very strong body of work, and hence this should not be taken as something that they have made a mistake or they have deliberately done something wrong because of the past body of work. That's not how we journalists function. We are all judged by the last story that we have done. If there is something wrong, if there is a malafide, if there is something which is smelling fishy, then we are hung by the noose. We are hanged by the noose. We are not excused our past work that we have done. Just like doctors, you make a mistake on the surgical table, that's it. That's what you are blamed for then. You cannot say that मैंने पहले 25 other surgeries ठीक किए थे, so I should be excused of this. No, if there is a crime involved, there is a crime involved. It has to be, you have to now prove yourself innocent. As far as this mistake bit is concerned, what Devesh is saying is right in that this fabrication, if at all there was any fabrication and if there was cheating, everybody is involved, not just the reporter. Just to reiterate again how newsrooms function, Madhav, in case people don't know, your viewers or your experts don't know, if any of us are suspicious as editors, if any of us, it is brought to our notice that, X reporter has done a story which is wrong, what do you do immediately? You pull the story down and then you verify whether something has gone wrong. You call the reporter and ask the reporter, have you done something wrong? If there is something fishy, even remote fishy, you take the story down and then you verify and then you put out an apology. But here what happened was they kept defending. They kept saying that no, we are being victimized, and even now they have thrown one reporter of theirs who's not even in their staff, they have thrown him under the bus, whereas they seem to be smelling fresh of roses. Okay. That's not the case.
Okay, Ghanshyam Tiwari, it's happened in the past, and this reporter is being thrown under the bus, as Smita Prakash says. No onus will be taken by the editorial leadership at The Wire. They have issued a statement and that's it. That's all that should happen to them.
Good evening, Madhav, to you, my fellow co-panelists and the viewers. Three things stands. One is the status of fake news in India. Politically and as a citizen, I believe that Bharatiya Janata Party has championed and raised the status of fake news as the real and propaganda as the real news. That is what I believe politically and as a citizen. Second, what The Wire does. In the past, I have followed the journalism of both Siddharth Varadarajan, M.K. Venu, and overall Wire. Yes, you can be judged by your last story and the last police raid on your house. But given the fake news that has been called out at multiple media outlets, who often are considered pro-Modi government, I haven't seen such police raids coming. So there's an excess nature of it. I believe that Wire has to live up to its own journalistic ethics and what people like me saw in their journalism. So I will wait for the details of this story to come out. I believe that with so much media scrutiny, especially even from platforms that see Wire as a rival, and the government that obviously sees Wire as a rival,
so you don't think Devesh is being you don't think Devesh is being accurate? You think Devesh is lying? You think Devesh is not being economical with the truth? A person who is now an accused person, he says his documents as digital devices are all with the police. Do you think he's still lying?
No, I'm just saying that there is a phrase in Hindi called chor machaya chor. Or Sambit Patra did a press conference yesterday and said thug ke ghar thagi hui hai. If you take fake news and you take Amit Malviya, Sambit Patra, the BJP ecosystem, and they are accusing somebody of fake news, then I would say these phrases fit on them. So as far as what The Wire is doing and what Devesh is doing, it's a matter which is both investigated by the police.
All right. Multiple charges, multiple questions that you raised with the BJP. I'll allow Guru Prakash to respond to all of those charges. Guru Prakash, direct charges coming in from Ghanshyam Tiwari saying that this fake news, he alleges, is something that originates from the BJP, despite the fact that what Devesh has said today is in direct contravention of what the Wire's editors have always maintained in the past.
Madhav, before I respond to my friend Ghanshyam, as a citizen, as a citizen who has faith in rule of law, as a citizen who has faith in constitutional framework, I want to thank your organization. I want to thank your institution for at least getting a perspective of a man whose character was being assassinated, getting a perspective of a man whose mental skills, whose education was being questioned. Unsound mind, mental problem. So thank you, Madhav, on behalf of citizens for at least putting this perspective. Secondly, Madhav, my friend Vivek ji was also raising a lot of questions on the status of media. Since the last 3 days, there has been not a single channel or a single newspaper that has not questioned the central government or the Gujarat government over the Morbi incident. This is the status of media. Our media is a strong, free and independent media, and I would not allow anyone to raise a question mark on my media, which has been the hallmark, which has been a pillar of our democratic constitution. Now the assassination, and is an apology enough, Madhav? Is an apology enough? They have apologized. Is that sufficient? You are raising a question mark on an office bearer of the world's largest political party. You are raising a question mark on Meta, the institution, as well. You are alleging a conspiracy. And is an apology enough? I want to ask the senior media leadership, the Wire, which happens to be the doyen of free speech, a doyen of independent media. They are now exposed, and this is not the first occasion, and I am sure this is not the last occasion. Have we forgotten the Take Fog story? Are we going to forget the Meta story? This is an institutional attempt, and rightly so. You mentioned about the cabal, the liberal cabal, the so-called intellectual, the self-declared intellectual cabal, which are in defense. The threats are being written in defense of this. There is rule of law. No one is above the constitution. No one is above the judicial process. The Wire, the leadership of Wire, the organization Wire must follow the rule of law, and this judicial process must come out, and the evidence and the reality must be out in front of the entire
Guru
public.
Prakash, let me just say this before I go across to our next panelist. The fact is that Times Now does report every aspect of the story, whatever may be the stand that is being taken, whatever may be the facts. We did in fact even try to reach out to Mr. Varadarajan following this revelation. Of course, he could not respond to our call, and we have spoken to him several times in the past on this very story and the various aspects of this story as well. But the points that you have made, I want to take across to Tehseen Poonawala. Tehseen Poonawala, the question that the BJP is asking is this, that it is not just one standalone incident where an apology can be given and one can move on. Now, following this incident and the series of stories that have been done, related to the X check or the X cross in the Instagram account, there have been tech fog, a series of such articles which have now been removed. Now, it really raises some serious questions into the credibility, A, of the news organizations, the checks and balances that they have within, and also whether all of this was merely to follow a certain agenda. That's the question that the BJP is raising. So why not, or what is wrong with the legal action is the question that the BJP is raising at this point of time. Please respond.
I'll come to exactly what is wrong with the legal action, but let me first begin with one thing. We all, at least on this panel, agree on one thing, that to err is human. Of course, if you seek forgiveness or you tend to move on, or if you have better checks and balances, then fine. You make mistakes and you move on in life. Now, of course, the BJP's argument is that the Wire has been a habitual offender. That's what I gathered from what the defense has been out here. But let's even assume that they've been a habitual offender. Then the law of the market should kick in. People should lose credibility on them, and they should not subscribe to them or go to them. Why do people subscribe to ANI? Because it is a very reputed Wire. Why do people subscribe to Times Now? Because it's a very reputed organization. So the Wire has done something wrong, like Ghanshyam rightly said, they will face the consequences. People will boycott them. Is it justified that an entire army of the Delhi police, leaving all of the crime, goes after editors and starts saying, oh, this was deliberate about me? Should we have criminal defamation? That's the first thing that we need to argue as a mature democracy. That is point number one. Now let's go to point number two. Let me make this political. Guru Prakash ji, a dear friend of mine, comes from a political party whose leader, Amit Shah sir, says in September 2018 in Rajasthan, and I quote the Honorable Home Minister, then BJP President, it is wrong to spread fake news, but we can spread any news that we want. He was referring to his party making up a story of Akhilesh Yadav ji slapping the Honorable ex-Chief Minister and now departed leader Mulayam Singh Yadav. This is the Home Minister of the country, BJP President, saying our Karyakartas made up this story. The BJP, which is the only political party in our country that benefits from fake news, which is the political party in our country that benefits from hate news, news? Let us ask this question and the viewers know the answer to this. I don't have to answer it. So the BJP today talking about this is like the devil quoting the preacher. The BJP needs to be left out of it. What I do suggest, and this is my suggestion for leaders like Rahul, Smita ji, all of you all here, maybe in your organizations, you all could come up with even better, more stricter checks. Maybe as organizations, you all can censure. Maybe as organizations, you all can stop them from putting news out for a period of time. Come more heavily down on them. Fight. But
that's exactly the point.
Police raid people and jail them. I think this is arrogant. This does not happen in mature democracy. That's where I would like.
But that's the point that's being made even by Smita earlier, that there are normally checks and balances always in place when any issue is flagged. Over here, there were red flags aplenty, and yet no action or corrective action was taken. And that is what the question. That's what the question is. Nevertheless, I'm going to pursue your question with Mr. Ratan Sharda. Mr. Ratan Sharda, whatever mistakes or lapses there may have been, perhaps there should be no criminal action, because that would be dangerous for democracy, is the gist of Tehseen Poonawala's question. Please respond to him. If you could unmute yourself, sir, then we can speak. Yeah, go ahead. Now we can hear you. Yes,
remember Ketki Chitra Nikhil Bhamre, who were arrested. They were in jail for nearly 40-50 days just for some post on the Facebook by this very Congress-led government in Maharashtra. No, everybody is happy. Your channel had to have the worst kind of persecution, hundreds of cases put up, people are put into jail, and people sitting here very happy about it. Did they object to it? No, sir, they did not. So we cannot have two scales of, two scales of measure for two kind of journalists. Now coming to the wire itself, if you say, okay, it was first of all, let me tell you, though I agree that you have done a wonderful job by tracing the person whose address was not available to anybody, so-called, right? You search the person, he gave the interview. To my mind, he seemed to be afraid. He seems to be in cahoots with the wire, because if you note, one of his statement was, my stand is same as the wire, okay? So that means there is some kind of pressure on this person also, where it changes, we do not know. But coming to Mr. Siddharth Varatharajan himself, you talk about test fraud, you talked about the recent case of Amit Malviya, and it is not just, question of some mischief. It is a question of defending the indefensible. They manufactured evidence once they were caught. And is it only the first time? No, sir. You remember the Bharat vaccine, that is the worst case, so always repeat it. Bharat vaccine had to go to courts. He was doing a wonderful job. He had to go to courts, and the wire was made to take down 14 stories, not one or two, 14 stories. And they were restrained from making more stories on that. You remember during Republic Day, Epiphany in Red Fort, and these people said farmer was killed by a bullet, though he was not. The doctor said there was no bullet, was also defamed by the same people. They refused to take down the story.
Right.
So one is that you make one mistake. I know the Times now has faced many cases. I come to know through debates they are facing scores of cases. Have they put any journalist under the bus? Have they said this is not my responsibility? Raj Sharma, main editor to everybody down the line, is facing the cases. Nobody is to be a victim. Here we have people advocating victimhood for the person who has very boldly said that I am doing all this deliberately, who is more of an activist than a journalist, whose main job is to have India's name defamed across India, across the world, who has friends across the world. The economics defends him, Program defends him without any evidence. Evidence on the other side, but you want to say forget and forgive. Did you forget and forgive, which are some examples I gave you? And who got the first limitation of freedom of speech? Mr. Nehru.
Okay.
That was the first amendment to Constitution.
Right. Many hands going up. Tehseen, I'll come to you. I just want to quickly bring in Kamruzaman Chaudhary into the debate as well. Kamruzaman Chaudhary, multiple points here that have been made by Mr. Ratan Sharda. But I think there's one very, very pertinent point that he makes. When it comes to individuals such as Ketki Chitale and the kind of harassment that they face, then why is this same standard not used? Why are those individuals forced to face the, strong action of law? Because that's also believed to be a defamatory statement. That is also a bunch of individuals who go to jail for their words, and this for exercising their speech, free speech.
Madhav, Madhav, the irony is that we are discussing such an issue when we should have given the free hand to the journalist out here. whatever story they are reporting, they are only responsible for this. In this particular case, I am not a spokesperson for the Wire, but a few things that cropped up to my mind is the speed and the tenacity with which the Delhi police has started the investigation. I hope and I firmly believe that this particular investigation into the entire Wire episode will be codified and set as a benchmark for future investigation into fake cases. That's my point number one. This should be codified. This should be remaining as a benchmark for please.
Okay, let him finish. Make your point, Mr. Chaudhary. Quickly.
Sharda, you have got your time. Let me finish.
Yeah, make your point, sir.
Now the point is that people like Guru Prakash, point is people like Guru Prakash from the right-wing fraternity out here, they will come on national television, they will criticize such media houses that seem to be independent. Maybe they might be prejudiced towards against your party, or maybe liking a particular ideological party. That is, they are fine, dusted. But then, as a Bharatiya Janata Party, will you oppose those channels who are spreading fake news, who are spreading hate news in the country? There is a manipulated media that is working in this country, either from the right-wingers or from the left-wingers. But we as an Indians, we need proper reporting, proper news coming to our eyes and ears, not the manipulated.
Guru Prakash.
India is another such...
Guru Prakash, will the same rigorous standards be applied in other cases of alleged fake news as well, or defamation as well? Quick response from Guru Prakash.
Absolutely.
No. Kamruddin ji, let me make this very clear. Since the last 3 days, even Times Now has been critical of the government. Did we raise any question mark on the Times Now? It is the duty of the media to raise question mark on the media, on the government institution. But what is the point which you are trying to suggest? This is beyond my comprehension. This is really laughable. You have made this case on the credibility. I did not speak when you were speaking, sir. I did not speak when you were speaking, sir.
Now you are interrupting him.
Have some patience.
Now you asked a question. Listen to the response, please. We have limited time. I don't want all the time to be wasted in tutu mame. Please, quick response, Guru Prakash. Then I go across to others.
Kamruddin ji, you're a senior person. You are lecturing Mr. Ratan Sharda. Now you are doing the same thing. Just look at your approach and attitude. So it is not the duty of the government, but the government with full vigor and full conviction will reach out and will make every effort to make inquiry and investigation, because you cannot assassinate a character of a person. You cannot allege a conspiracy between an institution and an organization and an individual. This is clearly beyond my comprehension. And a similar point was being made by my friend Tehseen about whataboutery. I can give you 100 such stories where it has gone lethal. The leadership of the Congress party, has been spreading fake news about the vaccination program.
Okay, let me quickly bring another panelist also. Let me quickly bring another.
There is no point in doing whataboutery.
What about those other stories of fakery, about the allegations of fakery, including vaccines at least? Ganjab Tewari.
Yes. Well, I believe that no one in the media today and the government can stand and say that our track record with respect to fake news is absolutely a torch that we can carry. For example, the print published this story. Nearly 18,000 Twitter accounts spread fake news for BJP, 147 do it for Congress, a study. This is 31st January 2020. Was anybody arrested? So clearly, I believe, again, it's a political viewpoint as well, that BJP is the fountainhead of fake news in India. It has established an elaborate ecosystem. Today, they have a knives out against Wire. They have knives out. Please, I was not interrupting.
Your leader Akhilesh Yadav said BJP ki vaccine.
Okay. Anybody. I was not interrupting.
But you are saying a lie. You are saying a lie. You are saying a lie. Your leader said Mr. Akhilesh Yadav. Mr. Akhilesh Yadav said BJP ki vaccine hai. BJP ki vaccine hai. Mr. Akhilesh Yadav said. You are the leader. You are the leader. Akhilesh Yadav said.
Entire organization that they have the ability to spread any news.
BJP की वैक्सीन अखिलेश यादव बोलते हैं तब आपको याद नहीं आता है. You have to remember, Mr. Akhilesh Yadav, at the cost of so many lives, people would have died because of you. लोगों ने वैक्सीन नहीं लगवाया आपके नेता की वजह से. लोगों ने वैक्सीन.
Let me just come in here, gentlemen. Let me just come in here. We are debating the Wire, we are debating the news, we are debating what's happening there, and that's why I want to bring in Smita Prakash. Smita Prakash, repeatedly we are hearing this even through the course of this debate, that, you know, no political party, no ideology, no side can claim that, you know, they're completely covered in glory. Everyone can be accused of fake news, and therefore, you know, it's wrong to sort of compare any one side, whether left or right or center. This moral equivalence in this particular instance of Wire, it's a little different. Do you not believe?
Look, Madhav, as far as political parties are concerned, sure, I agree with you that nobody is covered in glory. And not even media houses. We can all become victims of fake news. We can all get planted by fake news. But as I said, that there are firewalls in place in even our news organizations. I mean, we are probably not as exalted as the Wire, which is considered to be this flag bearer of honest journalism by everybody right now, you know, who's speaking on the show, and those who are defending the Wire, that these are the people who are the flag bearers of pure journalism, and so whatever their mistakes, they should be forgiven. So let me come back to the point that I was making, which was that we all have firewalls in place. And if there is, like Tehseen says, that to err is human, yes, agreed, that you can make a mistake, but these firewalls get kicked into action. If I, as an editor, feel that, yes, there could be something fishy, then what am I supposed to do? Do I fabricate news to cover up for the mistake that has been made? No, because that means that I am part of the problem then. And that is exactly what is happening. So this parsing which is happening to say that, you know, the editor is not responsible and Devesh is the only one because he fabricated today, he's saying that I am just part of what Wire was doing. I was just one of the reporters. I didn't even take a byline, and I don't want to be the story. Right. I am a reporter.
Right.
Which is what it is. The editor has to take responsibility, and he is culpable, or he or she is culpable.
Can the Wire's editorial leadership just put the entire blame on Devesh Kumar? You've heard Devesh Kumar, you've heard his version, you've heard what the editorial leaders of the Wire have to say, you've heard what Amit Malviya has to say. Those stories are out in the public domain. We leave it for our viewers to completely judge. I'd like to thank Ratan Sharda, Smita Prakash, Tehseen Purawala, Gansham Tiwari and Vivek Srivastava for joining us this evening on debate number 1. Guru Prakash and Kamruzaman Chaudhary will continue with us for debate number 2.